John Gillespie is a 38-year industry veteran. He's the managing director of Phenix Salon Suites in the UK and in Europe. From education to TV to fashion, he has performed in over 50 countries and is the person responsible for bringing salon suites to the UK. Last time we spoke, we got to hear a little bit about his story, how he got to where he was. There's a lot of really good advice for anybody looking to get on stage or be a celebrity stylist, or if you want to go independent. And so it's a very diverse set of topics. So I highly recommend you go out and check it out. Today, we're going to dive into how exactly did John bring Salon Suites to the UK? What was that whole process like? And we're going to get a little bit of a talk about what it's like being independent in the UK and where that whole space is going in UK and Europe. So listen up if you're a salon owner or a rising stylist or a suite owner or someone thinking of transitioning into suites, you won't want to miss this. Welcome back to the Hairdresser Strong Show. My name is Robert Hughes and I'm your host. Today I'm with John Gillespie. How are you doing today, John?
I'm really good, thank you, Robert. I'm feeling strong.
Good. Awesome. That's what we want to hear. You are now the managing director of the Phenix Salon Suite. So you told me that you were the person who brought you suites to the UK. Can you tell us how did that happen?
It's an interesting story, and sometimes you wonder if things are meant to be, or you meet people, or it's one of these things that I'll be honest, I had never heard of salon suites. And most people in the UK, you'd be surprised to hear that we hadn't heard of salon suites. It's not a way of business that was happening here, and it was very new to me. How I found out about it was through the founders of Phenix Salon Suites, headed up by Gina Rivera, who is the founder, and her husband Jason Rivera. Gina was launching, and Gina's a big personality in the US. She's been an undercover boss, and done numerous television things. Very much a celebrity herself in the industry. So I was aware of her, but I wasn't aware of Phenix Salon Suites or what that meant. So I was asked through a third party. I didn't know them; they didn't really know me. But a third party put us together because I had written education programs for brands here, whether it be for color techniques, cutting techniques, education systems that salon stylists can learn, whether that be through products or through, as I said, cutting or coloring. So I was very much being involved at a high level, working with brands to create education concepts. So we got connected through, as I said, a third party. And I was going to visit as a consultant for the colour brand because Gina had brought out it's called Colours by Gina, which was a 60 shade professional colour system targeted towards freelance stylists, whether they're freelance on their own or in suites. So I was brought over to Dallas, Texas, to meet them there where they worked with a company who were working with them on the colour brand with pre-launch. So that's why I went, and that was my first connection. So the first couple of days, we were more or less, around a table with creative ideas on how this colour could work. My role also was to see how we could take this American colour brand and, if you like, Britify it or Eurify it so that it was kind of palatable for the UK market and the European market, because certainly they had aspirations to bring the brand over here. So that was why I was there, and that was my role. When I got there, as it happened, I got on really well with the team, with Jason, Gina, and the founders. And, sometimes you just clicked with people and it just feels right. And that's what happened. And again, I'm still not that aware of the suite concept. So on the second last day, one of the days they'd earmarked for me to go a tour around Dallas. And there was 3 Phenix Salon Suites in Dallas, 3 locations. And the franchisee from Dallas actually took me around to let me see the business, to show me. And I was like, I went in and as I said, I'd never seen anything like this. So walks in the door, and the first one we went to had 50 suites in it. and it's not in a typical place where I would expect hair salons to be. It was very much a retail park or shopping park. I think you guys call them strip malls. And so initially I'm thinking, what is this? And where is this? But it goes in and there's this kind of metropolis of hairstylists, barbers, nails, microblading. There's even a tattooist. All these, what we would term as lifestyle professionals. A lot of hair, but not just hair. Aesthetics. And I'll be honest with you, I was absolutely blown away. I was like, wow, I've never seen this before. And I've travelled. I'm not just somebody that's been sitting around the UK. I've been all over the world. I've never seen this. And I must admit, it blew my mind. And I thought, my initial thought was self-preservation. Because I thought, I knew salons were becoming, it was hard work. It's hard employing people. It's costly. It's challenging, particularly with the rise in costs, particularly in the UK of employing someone. So I knew things were challenging. And this blew my mind. I thought, I need to get involved in this because I think this is going to be a big thing in the future. Pheonix, for example, they're now approaching 400 locations in the US, which is incredible. And that's only, since 2011 they started franchising. So it's just incredible growth. So I saw it, and that was my thought. I need to get involved in this. So we went back the next day, and I said to Gina and Jason, this would work in the UK, And it was more a case then, they were like, well, why don't you do it? You think so? You think it would work? You think people? And I was like, absolutely. I knew self-employment was rising. I knew people wanted independence. I knew with the new ones in the industry coming through as well, they want to start when they want. They want to start work when they want, work what days they want, and choose their own hours, choose their own days. So all of that kind of ticked a lot of boxes for me to think, do you know what, this could work, not just in the UK but throughout Europe. So that was about 4.5 years ago, perhaps, and took us a couple of years to kind of formulate it right and to find the right people and to get involved. Fast forward a couple of years, 2 years ago, we opened in Manchester in England, the first Phenix Salon Suites and the first salon suite business in the UK. And we opened it in Manchester. We have 29 suites there, and we filled it within 6 months, which again was quite phenomenal because it was a new model. People didn't understand it. It was a brand new way of working. Since then, we've just recently opened in Birmingham, England, and our next on the list will be Nottingham and Liverpool, which are in construction at the moment. So, it's really picking up, and I'm enjoying it. The stylists and professionals, lifestyle professionals, they're enjoying it, having their own space, and living an independent life and business. So that's the story, how it began and how it's come here, basically through a chance meeting and just seeing it and thought, wow.
So let me make sure I understand this. So you're in Dallas because someone knew who you were and wanted you to work with them on a color line.
Yes, to help them Britify the colour line and help them perhaps bring it to the UK and Europe.
And then on that trip, you visited a salon suite.
Yep.
Okay, so when you saw it and you saw that it was like, this is awesome. We need to do this in the UK. What was your next step to make that happen? Like, were the people you with have any relationship to Pheonix, or did you have to reach out to the people of Pheonix? Are they the one and the same, or is that something that
they're the same, because the founders are, they're the founders of the brand, so it's also her color line.
Okay, so they have the color line and the Pheonix studios. Okay, all right. So that's the part that I didn't know. Okay, so So you're there with these people that they've already got the Phoenix salons, and then they're like, "Hey, I want to have a color line because for specifically for independents, and we got this basically the building like their own ecosystem."
Yeah.
And first question is that color line still out and about and running, or did they decide that not to continue to pursue that?
Yes, it is. It's out in the USA. We've also launched it here in the UK. Just soft launching it. As I say, we do education classes. We have ambassadors that teach, and that's available for the suite owners to use. They can buy it. We have a color bar on site in the salon suites. They didn't have that in the US. So we have a color bar where stylists can buy at wholesale prices the color, so they don't have to have huge stocks of it, and they can
That's
also buy
huge.
at wholesale price. But we
That's
also
amazing.
on it. But
I
there's
love
no obligation for them to use it because they're independent, so it's up
right.
to them. But we have it there. We offer education, and they've got that kind of knowledge that they can get whatever color they need. Because you and I know what hairdressers are like, because we are. That you forget to get your color that day, or you don't have to want this product, that product, especially when they're all of a sudden independent. So again, it's a bit of a cushion or soft landing for them that they've got that on site.
I always said that all salon suites should have a tiny little like we have stores salon centric. I don't know if you have those.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so like I have a salon centric or a Cosmoprof, like a distributor store, like a mini one. Like color is definitely the most important thing, but it might be nice if there were like a clips and a couple
Yeah,
combs, and just in case. And I was like, they're missing out. There's so much
yeah,
money to be made there because yeah, like you're saying, hairdressers like we plus like, hey, what about this? It's not even that I'm forget or I made a mistake. It's like even if I got my stuff together the most, if I have someone calling cancel and then I
yeah.
have someone on my waiting list and I call them and I'm like, hey, I got this opening. They're like, I'll be right there. Well, guess what? I might not have everything I need for that client because I wasn't prepared for the client I didn't know I would have. So it makes sense to have that. It's not even about like, oh, hairdressers make mistakes. It's like, how about I'm just being prepared to do the best job I possibly can. I love that, by the way. I would like to see that more in the
Well, that
UK.
was a UK initiative that that I felt would be good going forward to create, particularly as we had our own colour. So it almost gives us a showcase for it. And at the same
True.
time, what we want to try and create is we want to make your life as easy as possible. You're busy, you're doing hair all day. If we can cut out all the little gnats that can annoy you and have things there for you, it just creates that kind of much, easier atmosphere. So, and that's what I think makes us different as well and will make us different from whether it's other salon suite brands or other brands, because at the root of the company, we are, Gina was a hairdresser. She was, again, similar to me. She was like from a family of hairdressers. Her father's a hairdresser. He says he's still got one client, and that's her. he says, I can't get rid of her. So, she grew up in a salon. So we understand, and same as I do, bringing it here. It was great that we almost had that synergy with. Do you know what? We come from a hairdressing background. We understand hairstylists. We understand the emotion. We understand the importance of things going well. So these little things we try and do is to guess what? We want to make your life easier. We want you to have a brilliant day every day.
Do you all share I'm curious what kind of other differences there are. I've seen some salon suites that have communal shampoo bowls.
Yeah.
Do you do that or everyone has their own
What
shampoo
we
bowl?
do, what we do is within their suite, we provide them with a shampoo bowl. We provide them with a hydraulic styling chair. We provide them with a station and also a cabinet for their bits and pieces. The only thing we don't provide them with is a mirror. We don't
Okay.
provide mirrors because everybody's so personal with whether they want it long, circular, rectangular, square. So the mirror is the only thing we generally don't provide. The suite is also, got a lovely floor finish on it. They can pretty much rock up, and it's low deposits, it's month to month rolling contract. So they can come in, they can pay a low deposit, and they can get working the next week or the next day if they want to. So we really make it easy, again, as easy as possible for you to start your own business. It's almost a kind of an open key, and then you go and you can get, you can create your business, and you don't have to go out and spend a lot of money. Yes, some of them do. They create these, amazing suites and how they personalize it, and we're happy about that because the more personal they make it, the more attachment they do have to it. But they don't have to. It looks pretty good anyway. But they can. That's the good thing with us is they can decorate it and they can create their own brand within that space. And it's unlimited. And as long as they're not knocking walls down, we're not going to bother them.
Nice. So, in the you mentioned that salons, people who talk, like, one of the negative talking points about salon suites is isolation and collaboration, or lack thereof. And you mentioned that you host uh, opportunities for people to get together, to learn together, and stuff like that, which I think is really cool. One, what percentage of people take advantage of those opportunities?
It's we've the more we what we've been doing, we've been kind of really honing in as far as almost an experimental way of what's going to work.
Okay.
Because we're still very young in the business here.
Okay.
And for example, we've just opened in Birmingham, and we've got about we're over we're about 60% full, and that's just within about a month, which is fantastic. Um, and out of those, and there's 33 suites in Birmingham, out of those 15 people who were originally in, there's now about 19 in. But out of that, the first kind of run that we did, I think I had 10 one-to-one sessions booked with
Nice.
people who want to sit down with me and ask about the business, try and see how we can help them go forward, or try and pull on the experience that I've had. Because, as I always say to them, all the mistakes I've made them, but I've got a lot of things right too. So I can certainly point them in the right direction with their business, and to really get them to understand how it's going to work and what's going to work. So that was quite high. The color thing's a little bit harder, simply because a lot of people, as you'll know, they have their own brand of color that they're happy with, that they're safe with. So to try and change color brands is quite a big ask. But we have got a steady, flow of people want to come to the classes. We also pitch the classes online, so they don't have to come to the event; they can actually watch online. And we've had good numbers on that. They also our price. We just did the pricing seminar, and again, we had about 6 to 8 of them on that. So that's really good. But all we can do is, I always say I can take you to the fountain, but I can't make you drink.
Yeah, I think people need to take. So we host classes, and I consult with salons, and we host events, and like, a large number of our audience are actually, like, suite owners. We have quite a few. Suite owners seem to be really interested in learning and staying on top of best practices in business and marketing. I think they're hip enough to know that they need to stay on top of business trends, consumer buying habits, and like social media, like marketing, whatever the latest stuff is on that. And one-on-ones time, if it's with somebody like yourself who's got the accolades and the experience, I feel like they would take advantage of that. The challenge that we've seen is people coming to classes unless it's like an influencer or somebody who everybody has heard of or knows, has a reputation. But like a class, like building somebody. Anyway, that's been my experience. So I was curious to know
Yeah,
if
I absolutely, I agree with you. And it's very, you know, it's very difficult to get people to any class. And I think it's that whether that's the industry the way it is, whether it's the youth in the industry that don't want to. But I do think that, and I know from even working with the big brands, they find it difficult to fill their classes. So never mind us doing it at our own levels, but getting people to go to education, or further on, getting people to pay for education, has become very difficult. When I think going back to what we used to pay and what we used to do, and now, but it's just very hard for salons to be able to afford to pay for education. Similar, so if there is, I suppose, independent stylists who are perhaps making money, are they investing any of that in an education? It'd be an interesting conversation to find that out. What are you putting into education, on what percentage?
Well,
Um,
something that's happening in the US, and I'm curious to know if it's happening there, and this is all in the same vein, is that the influencers have grown themselves to be a lot of them are monetizing their following by selling themselves as educators, and that was like a really big thing. So you had independent stylists traveling around the country giving these classes, and then the brands started to recruit them, and now the brands have educators or ambassadors that teach for them or do stage work because they have high engagement and followers, and their brand, and it aligns with their brand. Well, what started to happen is that appeal of the novelty of having a influencer coming into your salon and paying them, I don't know, whatever you're paying them. People are paying like $300, $200 to $300 a class for a half day, like a 4 hour look and learn class, and like that's a lot of money for a look and learn, in my opinion. And so people are charging and people are paying. It's just what I'm starting to see is I think it's going to get harder and harder and harder for educators because people are starting to question the value of that education. Like the novelty of having a famous person in their salon is starting to wear thin, and that wow factor, the inspiration, and motivation you have by having your favorite hairdresser in, like that is valuable. However, people are starting to say like, how much did I actually learn there? And so now there's a push for higher quality education, some sort of vetting process, and some sort of like academy level, like going back to like the type of education that was around before anyone could say I'm a teacher. You had to like work your way up through a system. Anyway, do you any of that stuff happening or being talked about at all over in UK or Europe?
yeah, there is still seminars out there, but from what I understand, they're poorly attended.
Okay.
Um, People aren't willing to part with money, or certainly not that many are willing to part with money to go to a class, no matter who's taking it. Um, and what I would say as well, there's not as much education available. The manufacturers aren't putting the same behind it. So that's something that has changed. Because, and I guess from their point of view, it was a case that, well, there's not enough people going to come, so we can't afford to put it on, whether they pay the stylist or whoever it is to do it. So there's very much there's something happening in the industry that it's not settled down yet. I don't think, even from, it's post COVID in a sense. The boundaries have changed. The landscape is changing. Um, the sands are shifting, and where it ends up, I'm not actually sure. I think, but there has to be options. But a lot of it can come to cost because, particularly in the UK and throughout Europe, there's been this whole cost of living issues, and that therefore affects, that's a knock-on effect to whether it's putting on education, putting on events, whether it's manufacture. Because at the end of the day, if the manufacturers aren't, making the money either, then they're loath to, put money into doing more events. So everything's always been kind of watered down and reduced. So we'll see if that comes back, or if that appetite for learning is actually there or not. I suspect I don't see such an appetite for learning as I used to.
So I think this is all really good, and I know that you got to go, and I really appreciate you hanging out a little bit longer on the show with me and running over. So I think we could wrap this up, but I would definitely love to like check back in with you. Um, so like I am in the camp that thinks that something's happening with the U.S. economy, and we should expect to see something anywhere from 6 to 18 months. And or at least in 6 to 18 months be on the other side of whatever's happening. That's my prediction. So I think it'd be really interesting to check back in with you through that process because I know the UK and Europe, they have, I think you all have a bit worse of a problem with inflation than the US does. And so like seeing how it's affected you and how it's affecting us, and then like what happens in the US as whatever is going to happen in the economy. I mean, we got an election coming up, we got the interest Fed and the interest rate stuff happening. Think everyone's thinking it's going to cut. So anyway, I would love to check back in with you at a
Yep,
later date.
I'd be
Um,
absolutely delighted.
Okay, cool. And so let's wrap this up because I know, like I said, I know we're run over, and I want to respect your time. So just to like sign off, if you have any like let since we're talking about the independent hairdresser or someone who wants to go independent, how about if you have two pieces of advice, one for someone who's thinking about going independent, and one that for someone who is independent, who maybe you have a message about education or community or something. I don't know. But if you have anything you want to say as we wrap up and sign off here, that'd be great.
I think for anyone thinking about being independent, what I would say is, you need to think about it carefully, and you need to be have that strong base of business to make it work. Because it's hard to go independent with nothing and start from scratch, unless you have some kind of financial muscle behind you, which most of us don't. So I would think hard about it and make sure that it's the right time and not too early in your career. So that's what I would say about that. And if you're going independent, it's deciding what type of independence. Is it a suite model? Is it a hybrid? Is it you can be independent in a salon also. You've got to think what works for you. As I said previously, run your own race. Do things that work for you that you're comfortable with. Because I always say you've got to get up every morning and do what it is that you do and where you do it, and that has to be right for you, not what everybody else is doing or what everybody else thinks. Is what you think, how you feel, and what's right for you. On the next one, the next question was, if you're already independent, what I would say is, I think what you need to do is remember that it's now down to you to keep developing. It's down to you to find education, use education, and perhaps collaborate with other people. And I always say, keep on learning. We never know it all. And if you're independent on your own, go and find it. Somebody's not just going to bring it to your doorstep and say, "Here you go. Here's a great new cutting technique," or and even these days, what you've got online that you can get involved in, you don't actually even have to physically go. So I would say, you do it, you find it, and make it happen for yourself. Because it's only you that can. That's why you went independent anyway. But independence doesn't mean that your career has to stop and your development has to stop. It just means that you're in control of it. So what do you want? Keep developing or go stale? And you know what happens if you go stale? You'll lose clients. So keep the lights on, keep the engine running, and keep moving forward.
Nice, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the show and sharing your story with us today. It was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Good. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it too. And I'll look forward
Absolutely.
to coming back on.
Yes, I definitely want to check in with you because I do think it'd be interesting to have a conversation because you discovered something on a trip to America that has led you into something. So who knows, maybe in our conversation, someone will spark an idea by analyzing the difference between what's happening on either side of the pond. So I think that'd be really interesting to check back in with you at a later date.
Definitely.
Awesome. All right.
Good.
Well, until then, take care. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye bye.